Dead on Your Feet. Arthur Grant Michaels, St. Martin's Press, New York, 1993. Stan Kraychik Mystery, Book 3. Narrator Eric Aust. In memory of Tajana and Andre, with gratitude and respect and love, thanks to the patience and generosity of my friends. Chapter 20. A Coda. 3 days later, I was back at work, the hero of Snip's salon, fanny and shoulder stitch closed and my arm in a sling. I was regaling our clients with my feats of bravery, including the unit of blood I'd received from none other than Lieutenant Branco himself. He'd ridden with me in the ambulance to the emergency room, and when it was evident that I needed blood, he offered his. Who would have thought that the beefy cop and I would have exactly the same blood type, right down to the rare RHO variant D13. In all of my fantasies about Lieutenant Branco, I'd never imagined the kinship with him. In the days that followed, I was notified by an attorney that Rico had drawn up a will and had named me the recipient of all the kitchen equipment and appliances that he'd inherited from Max Harkey. I don't think he even got a chance to use the stuff before he died, but it sure caused a big change in my life. I agreed to look for a place with Rafik, if only to house Max Harkey's Bossendorfer Imperial and Rico's household legacy. At Stips, I was chatting with one of Ramon's clients when Nicole handed me a large International Air Express envelope. "This just came for you, darling," she said. "I thought I'd help by opening it." "Sure, doll," I said. "No more secrets between us." "Says who?" she replied. From the envelope fell an American Express cashier's check for $500 and 2 full-fare round-trip first-class tickets to Italy. Inside the envelope was a letter from La Degisa, a.k.a. Charlene McChannel. It read, "Thank you for trusting me and performing magic with my hair. You are a rare gentleman. The check, though small, is for your fine work, and the tickets are for your vacation. You must come and visit me in Firenze. My villa is your home." Nicole raised one eyebrow. "A villa, no less," she said. I said, "Maybe those affirmations really work." After closing time, Nikki and I came back to my office. We both brought a change of clothes for our big night out, the opening night of the spring ballet season. We donned our glamour togs. Nicole lined my sling with a Hermes scarf. Then we sat down for a cocktail while we waited our driver. Nicole said, "Are you sure you don't want to go to the theater early?" "No, doll. Rafik told me honestly that he didn't want me backstage tonight. He insisted that I see his new work from out front the first time, and I'll do whatever he wants." "I wonder how long that's going to last." "As long as you and Vito do," I said. "That is completely different." "It's exactly the same," I retorted. A robust knock on the alley door signaled the arrival of our driver, Lieutenant Branco himself. There's nothing like a police escort for opening night at the ballet, provided you don't have to ride in a squad car. Branco entered the shop with a great rush of energy, looking fine in a double-breasted suit of midnight blue wool with a faint gray chalk stripe. He and Nicole exchanged polite greetings. I said, "It's okay, you two. Go ahead. I won't faint." Nicole countered, "Whatever do you mean, Stanley? You can kiss in front of me. It's all right." "But why would we do that?" she said. Branco looked at me, then said to Nicole, "Is he still on those painkillers?" Nicole answered him, "He insists that we are Romeo and Juliet." Branco grinned and showed his big white teeth. "Wishful thinking," he said. "On whose part?" I asked. Nicole replied, "You're not ready for the truth." Abruptly changing tack, Branco said to me, "You want to guess what arrived on my desk today by a special courier from British Air?" "Max Harkey's diary," I said. Branco grunted. "How'd you know?" "Where could it have been except lost, Lieutenant?" "Well, you're right," said Branco. "Turns out Max Harkey left it on the airplane the day he returned to Boston. When Boston Air couldn't reach him, they finally sent it to us." "Can I see it?" I said. "Until this case is officially closed, Stan, the answer is no." Nicole said, "I still don't understand why Max Harkey never identified his killer in any of those phone calls." "He never made a phone call, Nicky. He went from unconscious to dead without knowing who killed him." Branco nodded in accord. Nicole said, "Who phoned then?" "Who else, doll? Marshal Xander knew the police could trace any calls made to them. So he made the first 911 call from Max Harkey's penthouse, pretending to be Max. Right after he called them, then he called again as himself from his car phone, right after he left Max's place, claiming that's where he received Max's urgent call for help. Branco said, I should have seen through Xander's alibi for his whereabouts. Cruising around town at the exact time that Max Harkey was killed looked suspect, but we had no hard evidence on Xander. From where we stood, Max Harkey had made the call to us himself. So, even phone traps aren't foolproof, I said. Branco grunted. And the front door of the Appleton, I said. Branco replied. Xander's attempt to imply a vandal, most likely. The three of us went out the alley door and got into the big dark sedan Branco had parked back there. On the way to the theater, I got to stretch out on the back seat, which took some of the pressure off my sore rump. The Boston Performance Center glittered with the excitement and glamour of a ballet opening night. We had house seats in the orchestra, and mercifully I was on the aisle so I could stretch my leg out and shift the weight off my wounded cheek. I was reading the program when I realized the importance of this night for Rafik. It was his first commissioned work for the Boston City Ballet, a full-length piece he created especially for them. Though Rafik had restaged many of his other works on the company, this night marked a world premiere and before an extremely critical audience too. In his program notes, Rafik described the piece Umo Giacasso as a paean to the adventure of love that he and I shared. He said he wanted to express the challenges and rewards of spending his life with me, and I squirmed in my seat, anticipating a mawkish display of my life on stage. Sitting next to me, Nicole said, Pain, dear. Heartburn, I replied. Umo Giacoso was set to George Gershwin's Concerto in F. The work was dedicated to me. That was my name, Stan Kraychik, right there in the program. The premiere performance was in a memory of Max Harkey. The Phoenix would not be performed this season, if ever. Maybe its era had passed. Times change, after all, and there's no better way to initiate change than with a new art, ergo Umo Giacoso. There were three soloists. Scott Malloy portrayed me on stage, and I finally comprehended why he'd always been studying my moves and gestures so carefully in real life. Rafik portrayed himself in a role that required more drama than ballet technique, and I fell in love with him again, just like the first time. Elisa Cortland played the third role, the metaphoric role, the role of jealousy and mystery in our love. Rafik was even confessing his own participation in our conflicts and resolutions. The most moving part for me was during the plaintive trumpet solo in the second movement. It was a beautiful pas de trois for all three of them, or us, Rafik, Stan, and the outside forces that affected us. With Umo Giacoso, Rafik had taken all his difficult experiences with me and had refracted them into a work of art that focused on the essence of why we were together. Through dance, he was trying to show that the difficulties between us were external to the positive forces that kept us together. The Corps de Ballet had challenging ensemble work during all three movements, especially when some of the corps members danced in canonic imitation of the three soloists. Their dancing seemed to symbolize the potential and far-reaching effects all our actions have on others, the ripples that can result from the simplest action on one person's part. Jason Sears played the piano with bravura. Tony Di Natale conducted the orchestra with panache, and love conquered all. Rafik's creativity had finally obliterated my cynicism. The ovation lasted for 15 minutes. Umo Giacoso was, as Rafik later said, unsuccessful, wildly and insanely, ridiculously successful. True, it helped that the opening night audience was well attended by gays, but even Branco had stood and applauded with the others. After the performance, Nicole and Branco and I headed backstage to congratulate Rafik. He was surrounded by people, but Branco cleared the way for me and protected my arm in its sling. As I made my way to Rafik, I saw Madame Rabinskaya standing next to him. She looked dazed with pleasure. When I got to Rafik, he lifted his long arms to quiet the big mom. Then he put one arm on my shoulder and announced to everyone, "Here is my inspiration." And right there in front of everyone, dancers and audience, musicians and stage crew, cops and civilians, gays and straights, Rafik and I embraced and kissed each other brazenly on the mouth. A lingering, loving kiss. Applause followed by all. Yes, even Lieutenant Branco. Nicole asked Rafik, "After this wonderful premiere, what's next?" Rafik answered, "Study and I will go in vacations." "How did you know?" I said. But before he could answer me, Madame Ravenskaya scowled at his remark. "What you are saying, you cannot take vacation. You are teaching class tomorrow morning." I said, "But it wouldn't be until summer." "Oh?" replied Madame. Then she softened her face with a smile, as if to overrule her first hasty decree. "So maybe by then you will both deserve vacation." But how had Rafik learned about the trip? I was planning to surprise him later that night with the tickets. Had La Duchessa already sent him a psychic message? "How did you know?" I asked him again. Rafik winked at me and whispered in my ear, "I always know how to fix a wounded hero." A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.